Hello, the video is finally here. I've been working on this video for so long. First I took like 2 months to make the actual doll, then the editing has been taking a really long time because there's just so much footage, so I've decided to just cut it down as much as possible, which means that you don't get to see literally everything, but it's honestly better to just get the video done than be too like perfectionist about getting every step. So I'm sorry, but I hope that you still enjoy the video. So when I was younger, I used to watch these doll repaint videos and I wanted to try it myself. So I made a lot of these weird dolls that I never even finished, and the problem with these dolls was that I never had a clear idea of what I wanted to make, and I was just trying to replicate what the video was doing but with no clear objective. So this time I wanted to create a specific character of mine, which is this. Her name is Barbara and she is a forest troll girl. I think that this doll was perfect for her because of the face shape. It is so similar to her, and also just the body and the big hair is so good. Yeah. And speaking of the hair, I started with my big idea for this project, which was to keep all of the big hair by dyeing it the correct color. So I cut along the hairline. I also removed the eyes while I was at it. It was really difficult to remove the eyes, but I just kept heating up the head and eventually they popped off. I tried to not cut too close to the hairline because then some of the hair might start falling. So I tried to keep a good distance while also being pretty close to it because I'm actually going to dye it with Redymer in a pot. So it's going to dye the plastic as well, and I don't want too much of the plastic to be dyed because even though she will have bangs that will sort of cover that up if it does get dyed, but I want to keep it as much of the skin color as possible because, you know, I don't want her face to be red. I read the instructions. Basically, you have to put a little bit of dish soap in boiling water, then you put the dye in, and then you put the hair. Yeah, and that was going really well. I was dyeing and I was stirring it and it looked kind of scary, but yeah, it went well. Wait, that's not the right color. Yeah, I had to order another pack of this dye. This time I got purple dye because I thought that if I put some purple, it will be darker and it will also match this color better. And the dye arrived late, so the project was pushed back again. Second time dyeing went a little bit better. I learned from the last time, but this time it's pretty much purple, so not the right color again. I'll have to try and fix that. Then I made these eyes for the doll. I made them from white Fimo clay because I thought, oh, it's going to be easy. I'm just going to put the clay in the oven and it's going to come out and then I can paint the eyes and it's going to be easy. But actually, the clay got kind of burnt in the oven because I left it in there for too long. So I had to also paint the white parts of the eye. Then I covered the eyes in varnish. Yes, glossy varnish. And I covered them with that. And I also painted the face. I didn't film the full process because it was kind of difficult to film anyway because I couldn't get a correct angle because I didn't have a tripod. So yeah, but the painting went pretty well. Wait, why do you have tissue paper? Then after that, it was just gluing the eyes on. I also made these troll ears for her. I was initially going to just keep the actual ears on the doll because I felt like, you know, it was going to be really difficult to get these long ears to work with this really big hair because I felt like they would break really easily. So instead I put some magnets so that their ears are actually removable. And I used the And I used the real ear of the doll as like the inside part of the troll ear. I just made the ears from Fimo clay as well, and the clay was actually a really similar color to the skin tone, so I didn't need to paint that. I just added some blush and then covered it with some matte varnish. And yeah, I also covered the face in matte varnish. I don't know if I said. Oh, and now is the horrible part when I tried to glue the hair back on the head. Yeah, gluing didn't work because the surface here is extremely small, and the material as well is not something that really glues that well. So forget whatever I was doing here. Yeah, that didn't work. I just ended up having to fill the head with foil and a little bit of toilet paper. I don't I'm sorry, okay? I don't know what I was doing at all. And I mean, that worked, so you know, we have a doll, so it worked. It was fine. It was fine. It's just her head is now full of toilet paper and foil. And you see why I kept that hair. It's so pretty, even though it didn't end up the right color. I'm still happy that I kept it because there's so much of it and it's so pretty and it works really well for this doll. And I also decided later that I'm going to paint the eyes actually pink, because that's actually Barbara's original eye color. I just drew her for the last year with brown eyes, even though she originally had pink eyes, because I wanted to give a more natural look. But actually I think that the pink eyes will look better on this design because the hair is now quite dark, and having the dark eyes as well, it just made the doll look a little bit strange. So I think that adding pink eyes will look really pretty. I made the tail from wire and I wrapped some yarn around the wire, and then later I also sewed a piece of the hair that I cut off and put it on the end of the tail to create that troll tail. Since I'm doing the tail now, I want to also give a shout out to this YouTuber who I really like. Her channel is called Cotton Felting. I will leave a link in the description because her videos are really nice and like calming and just sweet, and she makes really cute stuff, and she also has an Etsy shop with so many cute things. I wish I could buy from there or support her in some way, so I'm just going to shout her out. I don't know what else I could really do because I can't really buy anything. Her channel actually made me consider that I could have made this tail by felting it, but I don't have a felting needle, so I just made it the way that I usually would. It would have worked really well if I felted it also. And now for the hairstyling, I wanted the bangs to be separate from the back part of her hair because she has very prominent bangs in my drawing, so I wanted to keep that as well. So I took two strands that are like individual hair tufts, then I put the tuft from the back row on the front and the tuft from the front row on the back, and then I did that sort of zigzag thing for the entire row, which gave this fuller look so that you can't actually see the scalp. Then I just cut the bangs in a way that looked more like the drawing, and I actually colored with acrylic paint some of the hair because you could see in the beginning as well the doll had two colored hair, so the parts that were blue didn't end up the same color as the parts that were pink, so I didn't know how to cover that up exactly, so that's why I used acrylic paint. But I'm not going to be giving her any special hairstyles or anything. It's just going to be open hair, so I think it's fine, probably. I mean, this is a very unorthodox method, I think, but well, it sort of worked. I also added some cerise pastel color on there later on so that the bangs would actually look more lighter, because I think if the bangs look light, then it doesn't really matter that the rest of the hair is a little bit dark. And now moving on to the clothes. I did the clothes like in this drawing, so I was going to also use this specific fabric to make like a sweater for her, because that's how I typically draw her, with this like green turquoise sweater. But that didn't really work out. I still have the sweater and I have this material, so I could still make something like that in the future, but for now I just use the flower shirt that I made. And I actually have this belt that I don't really use, that is the perfect color for a belt for her. I didn't film the process for making the overskirt because I think that was very simple and not very interesting, but I did film the process for making the pettiskirts because that's a lot more interesting, I think, and also the process is pretty much exactly the same but with the lace. So for the pettiskirt, I cut these two shapes and then I sewed the lace on both of them in this pattern, and once that was done, then I also sewed the smaller piece onto the bigger piece and then covered that up with some ribbon, which created this clean edge. Then I just sewed it together from the back and added a ribbon so that I can close it up. The belt that I had was kind of cheaply made, so the pieces weren't sewed together or anything, they were just glued together. So I just cut a small piece and I used the same glue that was in the belt originally, and I just stuck it on this fabric, and then I sewed it together and added this tiny belt buckle that I found at a local craft store. I also made this tiny Bible from the same faux leather that I made the belt from, because it's actually part of her backstory, and I thought that it would look really cute. The Bible actually has a working buckle as well. It's basically a functional mini book. I didn't film that part in detail, but I think that I would like to make more. So if you would like to see a tutorial for how to make a book like this, I can make that. All that the doll was missing was a collar at this point, so I cut this shape from some white fabric. It's the same fabric that I used for the petticoat. Then I just rolled the ends back and glued them so that it would look a little bit cleaner. And I added a ribbon as well so that I will be able to close it. And I thought that it would just look cute. I had some trouble picking a color because I felt like it will look too busy if it has a bright color, so I just went for an off-white color. And I think that the symbolism of white also fits her character really well. I hope that you enjoyed the video, even though I didn't really get to film everything, and that it was still entertaining to see the transformation of this doll. For the tiny Bible, my boyfriend actually requested that I would write one of the shorter letters of the Bible actually inside it, and I think that's a cute idea, but you know, it's going to be really difficult because it's so tiny, so I didn't do that. That's all for the process. Now you will get to just enjoy the final pictures that I took, and I want to thank my boyfriend also because he was there with me and he really helped taking these pictures. They would not have been as good if he wasn't there. So thank you, boyfriend, and also thank you for watching this video, and enjoy. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you have a suggestion, you can leave a comment, and bye bye.